Chapter 2872. After Bewitching and the others sent out the invitations one by one, all the forces expressed that they would come in person to congratulate them. Whether it was Tian Gang Sect, Wu Ji Palace, Lan Family, or Sun Moon Palace, they didn't usually offend many forces. Among them, the Yu family, which had the biggest conflict, had now completely disappeared from the Shengxian continent. Even some forces that had small conflicts before were now only thinking about how to reconcile with them. Otherwise, once the four forces joined forces, it would be easier to deal with them than with the Yu family. Since Bailey Hongzhuang defeated Yu Siqing in the art of medicine and poison, Bailey Hongzhuang had become a new generation of masters in medicine and poison. No one doubted her ability in medicine and poison. The Yu family, which had Yu Siqing as its leader, was destroyed in an instant by Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would dare to compete with her? With her horrifying poison skills, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to destroy a force, it was simply impossible to guard against. For a time, many forces began to prepare to go to Tian Gang Sect to participate in this grand wedding, and all kinds of precious gifts were taken out by them without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, it was already the day before the wedding. Bailey Hongzhuang had now returned to the Lan family with Lan Yunxiao and the others. Tomorrow, she will be married from the Lan family. Hongzhuang, you're getting married tomorrow. Are you nervous? Outside the house, Xia Jiqing's face was full of smiles as she walked quickly into the house. Behind Xia Jiqing, there was a series of dense footsteps. Then, Dongfang Yu, Yuan Xiaoman, and the others came in one after another. Seeing Xia Jiqing and the others suddenly appear, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of surprise. Jiqing, why are you here? Xia Jiqing and the others were cultivating in Tian Gang Sect. She had always thought that Xia Jiqing and the others would choose to wait for her there. Tomorrow is the day of your marriage. As your good friends, we naturally came here to send you off. Xia Jiqing smiled and winked. It just so happens that we haven't been to other places besides Tian Gang Zone. We should take advantage of this great opportunity to see what the Super Lan family looks like. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, now that you've seen it, what do you think? You really live up to your reputation. Dongfang Yu's handsome face rippled with emotion. Compared to such a powerful family, we've seen too little of the world before. Boss, when we strolled around Blue Sun City earlier, we discovered that everyone was full of praise for you. Yuan Xiaoman's eyes sparkled, and her face was full of joy. That Lan Qingyan, how can she compare to you? You don't have to flatter me anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Did you come alone? You didn't bring your sweetheart with you. Yuan Xiaoman blushed and said, I'm too lazy to bring him here. Everyone chuckled. Even if you don't bring it now, you'll see it often in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the group of friends in front of her, and the smile in her eyes gradually deepened. When she was in Tian Gang Sect, she also learned from the mouths of several temple masters that Gong Shaoqing and the others' performance in the sect was very good. They were far more hard-working than ordinary disciples. Their perseverance and unyielding spirit were exactly the same as Bailey Hongzhuang's. It was under such hard work that their progress was extremely gratifying. Chapter 2873. In fact, the reason why Xia Jiqing and others were so desperate to cultivate had a lot to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. At the beginning, they and Bailey Hongzhuang were standing on the same starting line, but they didn't know when Bailey Hongzhuang had left them far behind. Especially after knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's tragic life, they couldn't do anything to help, which greatly stimulated them. They really didn't want to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang, but couldn't help her at all. Therefore, they could only cultivate crazily, even if the gap was narrowed a little. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and others were talking, another voice came into everyone's ears. I didn't expect you to come earlier than me. Mo Yunjue was still wearing a black brocade robe. The silver-embroidered bamboo reflected a faint silver light under the sun, making his handsome face more elegant and noble. His tall and straight posture was strong and full of power, and his every move was full of momentum that was difficult to hide. With just a glance, it made people sigh at what a handsome man he was. When Xia Jiqing and others saw Mo Yunjue again, They were also surprised. Since the end of the assessment battle, they hadn't seen Mo Yunjue again. They didn't expect to see him here today. Mo Yunjue, I haven't seen you for a long time. Today, I finally see you. Dong Fanyu's face was full of emotion. When they were in the assessment competition, their relationship was also very good. Mo Yunjue smiled and nodded. It looks like you're doing very well in Tiangang sect. You all look full of energy. You left without saying a word. We didn't expect you to be the young master of Shirtian Tower. You hit it too deeply, didn't you? Baijin, you couldn't help but say. They had been with Mo Yunjue for so long, but they didn't know anything about the latter. Thinking of the years when they shared joys and sorrows, that was also a very deep memory. This matter is indeed my fault. It's good that you know it's your fault. This time, you must have a good drink with us, for the sake of the friendship we shared in the past. Yuan Jixin said. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue had expended a lot of effort to save them. They still remembered this life-saving grace clearly. Jixin is right. Tomorrow is Hongzhuang's big day. Let's take advantage of this opportunity and get drunk. Lu Qingyue curiously looked at Mo Yunjue. She had occasionally heard of Mo Yunjue's name before. Seeing him today, she felt that he truly deserved his reputation. The Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's young master was indeed valiant and elegant. Xia Jiqing and Yuan Xiaoman looked at each other. During the assessment, Mo Yunjue was very good to Bailey Hongzhuang, and they had seen it with their own eyes. This affection could not be more obvious. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to get married, Mo Yunjue must be very upset in his heart. At least, pain was inevitable. And now Mo Yunjue had come to attend Bailey Hongzhuang's wedding. On the one hand, it could be seen that he was magnanimous, and on the other hand, it could also be seen how deep his love for Bailey Hongzhuang was. For such a man, their hearts were full of sighs. Chapter 2874. Since you've made this request, I will naturally accompany you to the end. Mo Yunjue's cold and handsome face rippled with a faint smile. However, on such a good day like tomorrow, your focus shouldn't be on me, but on Di Beichun, right? Bai Junyu and the others couldn't help but look at each other when they heard this. That's true. Tomorrow is such a good opportunity. If we let Di Beichun go just like that, it would be such a pity. But you kid, aren't you a bad friend? You left without a word back then. Did you not see us as friends at all? Mo Yunjue shook his head. We've known each other for so long. Don't you know what kind of person I am? To him, the most important person in the world was Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's friends were naturally his friends as well. Back during the assessment, he had struggled and wanted to snatch Bailey Hongzhuang away from Di Beichun. If Bailey Hongzhuang only had eyes for him, that would be the greatest happiness in his life. However, he could not bear to hurt Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not want to see her hurt in the slightest. Bailey Hongzhuang already carried a heavy burden on her shoulders. If you were to make her feel pressured and sad, how could that be called love? Now that he had come to this, he did not know if he regretted it or not. Even when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were preparing for their wedding, he had not been able to sleep at all. He could not help but think of all sorts of possibilities. If he could have taken Bailey Hongzhuang away when he had first met her at Luoyun mountain range, Di Beichun would not have left a deep enough mark in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. Everything would still be in time. Unfortunately, he was used to being alone. Even though he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang gave him a completely different feeling, he still did not do so. He hated his own damned habit. By the time he went back and figured everything out, it was already too late. In life, once missed, it would be forever. He had never thought of himself as a gentleman. The amount of blood on his hands was a terrifying number. Being unscrupulous had always been his principle. It was precisely because of this principle that he did not trust anyone and did not need anyone. In his world, there was only himself. However, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, who was as bright as the sun, he did not want to show that side of himself in front of her. Perhaps he could walk the entire Shengxian continent with the title of evil and cruel, but he only wanted to be a gentleman in front of her. Just as he could ignore everyone's opinion, he could not ignore Bailey Hongzhuang's opinion. He could not accept the look of disgust. He would see if he got Bailey Hongzhuang by hook or by crook. Therefore, he walked step by step until now. Did he regret it? He didn't know either. The only thing he knew was that his heart ached when he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to become another man's woman. It was a bloody pain. However, he still wanted to give Bailey Hongzhuang his greatest blessing. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's smile would belong to someone else in the future, he wanted to see that smile again today. Chapter 2875. Listening to Mo Yunjue's words by Junyu and the others all smiled. If they didn't have Mo Yunjue's help during the assessment, it wouldn't have been easy for them to reach the end. The most important thing was that they all understood that Hongzhuang was going to get married tomorrow. Mo Yunjue's mood would certainly not be good. Tomorrow, they wanted to pull Mo Yunjue to drink together to distract him. Hongzhuang, congratulations. If that guy Beichin doesn't treat you well in the future, don't forget that I'm still here. Mo Yunjue joked, but his deep eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Mo Yunjue and smiled. Thank you. Di Beichin has always been very attentive to Hongzhuang. I'm afraid this kind of thing will never happen. Dongfang Yu shook his head. Yunjue, there are plenty of fish in the sea. You are so handsome and capable. The women you like should be lining up, right? Mo Yunjue glanced at Dongfang Yu. Listening to your tone, I'm afraid you haven't found your other half after staying in Tiangang sect for so long. As soon as these words came out, Dongfang Yu's face couldn't help but stiffen. He said with a sullen face, Brother, I'm trying to comfort you. Why are you exposing my shortcomings? Dongfang, I think you're thinking too much. What kind of person is Yunjue? Do you think he needs your comfort? Xia Jiqing chuckled. I think you should take care of yourself first. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang accompanied Xia Jiqing and the others to play around in the vicinity of Blue Sun City. During dinner, everyone drank and chatted, talking about the past. Although it had only been a few years, all the things that had happened made people feel as if they had been separated for a lifetime. However, Bailey Hongzhuang finally returned to her room to rest under the urging of Mu Lingbing and Nangong Wu because she had to get up early tomorrow. Usually, Bailey Hongzhuang spent most of her nights cultivating. However, she didn't cultivate tonight, so she couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, she would marry Di Beichin. Since she and Di Beichin got to know each other, she often thought of this matter in her mind. Now that everything was about to come true, she couldn't help but be a little nervous. Any bride would have this kind of mood on the eve of their wedding. The sky hadn't yet brightened when Bailey Hongzhuang got up. She was the busiest person in the morning. Mu Jintz, Mu Lingbing, and Nangong Wu also came to the room for the first time. From the expressions of the three people, Bailey Hongzhuang could see that they probably didn't sleep last night. Although their faces showed a little tiredness, their eyes were unusually bright and full of excitement. Today, we have to dress Hongzhuang up as the most beautiful bride in the world and dazzle everyone's eyes. Nangong Wu's face was full of smiles. As soon as she came in, she couldn't help but speak. Today's wedding could be said to be the focus of attention. They had to let Bailey Hongzhuang leave a deep impression on everyone. Our Yixuan is already beautiful. Today, after dressing up, she will definitely be more bright and moving. Mu Lingbing smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three women in front of her who were ready to do a big job and couldn't help but laugh. With you three beauties by my side, no matter how I dress up, I can only be rank fourth. Chapter 2876. Bailey Hongzhuang changed into her wedding dress and sat in front of the dressing table. She closed her eyes at the signal of Mu Lingbing and the other two, completely showing her face to them. Usually, Bailey Hongzhuang's dress was very simple, often just using a hairpin to tie up her hair. It was very rare for her to dress up like this. However, even if she was dressed simply, it was enough to stand out. Smelling the faint fragrance of cosmetics, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt Mu Lingbing busying herself with her face. Nangong Wu was busy combing her hair, and Mu Jintz was giving some advice from time to time. The servants were not idle either. They had been preparing the accessories and the items that would be needed for the wedding later. All in all, the whole house was extremely busy. Xiajiqing and the others also got up very early, but they could not squeeze into Bailey Hongzhuang's house because it was too busy inside. After a long while, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes under Mu Lingbing's voice. Looking at herself in the mirror, Bailey Hongzhuang also had a moment of absent-mindedness. Her fair and moist skin seemed to be able to squeeze water out of it. Her slender willow leaf eyebrows were gentle and elegant. Her pair of phoenix eyes were overflowing with light, like gems. When she smiled, they curved slightly like crescent moons and moved people. Her stunning face was like the bright sun, dazzling and dazzling. Her bright red wedding dress was embroidered with gold thread, which made her already snow-white and tender skin even more delicate. She was noble without losing her elegance, and gorgeous without losing her charm. Thinking back to when she was in Fengbo country, Bailey Hongzhuang had also worn a bright red wedding dress, but at that time her face was a bit green, but now it was truly gorgeous. Mu Lingbing and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of them. As early as when Bailey Hongzhuang was trying on the wedding dress, they could imagine how stunning Bailey Hongzhuang would be on the day of the wedding, but now that they saw it with their own eyes, they could not help but feel shocked. This is really too beautiful. Nangongwu could not help but sigh. She really is a peerless beauty. Mu Jin's eyes were full of admiration. When she was young, she had been praised many times, but compared to her own granddaughter, she really felt inferior. Mu Lingbing's eyes were shining like stars, and her beautiful face could not hide her pride and happiness. Such a beautiful bride was her precious daughter. When we arrive at Tiangang sect, I'm afraid Beicheng will be dumbfounded. When the servants of the Lan family saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they almost forgot to breathe. They could not help but sigh at the fact that such a beautiful person actually existed in this world. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a bright and moving smile as she looked at herself in the mirror. She was beginning to anticipate Di Beichen's expression when he saw her. The sun shone brightly and the sky was clear, as if even the heavens knew that today was an extremely good day. The weather was exceptionally good. The entire Lan family in Blue Sun City were filled with a joyous atmosphere. Today was the wedding of the Lan family's only daughter, Lan Yishuan. Furthermore, with such a grand occasion, it was naturally the focus of everyone's attention. To the members of the Lan family, this was not only Lan Yishuan's big day, it was also their big day. From this day onwards, the Lan family's position would be different from before. When Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked out of the house and appeared in everyone's line of sight, almost everyone was stunned for a moment. Chapter 2877. Bailey Hongzhuang wore a luxurious wedding crown and an exquisite crimson wedding robe. Her skirt often dragged on the red carpet, and her alluring face rippled with faint benefits. She was so beautiful and noble that it made others feel ashamed of their inferiority. Lan Hongtai, Lan Yinxiao, the Lan family's elders, and Bailey Hongzhuang's good friends were all gathered together to discuss today's wedding. On the other side, the Tiangang sect was also bustling with activity. Di Beicheng had gotten up early in the morning and was in high spirits as he waited for the arrival of his bride. Looking at the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, Lan Hongtai, and the others' faces were all filled with amazement, and the corners of their lips could not help but curl upwards. Such a beautiful granddaughter was truly their pride. Now that they could see Bailey Hongzhuang find a good match, it could be considered as settling one of the worries in their hearts. Lan Yinxiao looked at his beautiful daughter and couldn't help but feel reluctant to part with her. When Bailey Hongzhuang was born, he had determined that she would be the pearl in his palm that he would protect for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, he never had the chance to be by her side as she grew up. Now that he had only been reunited with Bailey Hongzhuang for a short period of time, as a father, he had to hand his daughter over to another man. He really couldn't bear to part with her. However, on the other hand, he was also very satisfied with his son-in-law. Although he couldn't help but feel jealous, he was also very happy to see them getting along so well. The moment Mo Yunjue saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear, he froze. Everything around him seemed to have disappeared, leaving only the beautiful Bailey Hongzhuang. He had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang dressed up. Normally, her voice and smile were already unforgettable, but today, she gave off a kind of soul-shaking beauty. It was this kind of person who had always occupied his heart. It was a pity that such a beautiful girl was going to get married today. Gong Shaoqing and the others' expressions weren't any better than Mo Yinju's. After staring blankly for a while, they finally reacted. Then, the smiles on their faces couldn't help but deepen. This heavenly couple was truly enviable. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Mu Lingbing's instructions and offered tea to Lan Hongtai and the others. This was a custom before marriage, to thank her family for taking care of her all these years. Lan Hongtai and the others smiled and drank the tea that Bailey Hongzhuang handed to them. Then, they handed a big red envelope to Bailey Hongzhuang and said some of their best wishes to Bailey Hongzhuang. Everything seemed very warm. When Bailey Hongzhuang offered tea to Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's eyes couldn't help tearing up, but her face revealed a joyful smile. Her only daughter was going to be married today. When everyone saw this scene, they were filled with emotion. Some were reluctant to part, but most of them were happy to give their blessings. After everything was done, the sound of firecrackers at the door rang out. The auspicious time had arrived, and the bride should get on the bridal sedan. Mu Lingbing personally covered Bailey Hongzhuang with a veil. This veil was made of thin gauze and couldn't completely cover Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Instead, it added a hazy sense of beauty, making her even more enchanting. This bridal sedan wasn't sealed. It was a phoenix sedan made of high-quality mahogany. Red silk floated around it, giving it an ethereal and luxurious feeling. Chapter 2878. Bei-chan was dressed in a bright red wedding robe. His already handsome face looked even more elegant and unrestrained today. There was no one like him in this world. The entire Tiangang sect was already bustling with activity. All the major forces had sent people to congratulate them. It could be said that the atmosphere was jubilant, and words of congratulations could be heard everywhere. Young sect Master D, congratulations to you. Congratulations. Congratulations on the marriage. Thank you, thank you. Bei-chan and Si Tian stood together, constantly thanking the people who had come to attend the wedding. The smiles on their faces never disappeared. Bei-chan, Hongzhuang will be here soon. Are you looking forward to it? When Ziren reached out and touched Bei-chan with a smirk on his face. Bei-chan looked at Ziren and said honestly, of course. He had been looking forward to this day for too long. He didn't sleep at all last night, hoping that he would marry Hongzhuang today. Your wedding is really grand. Practically all the influential forces in the Shangxian continent have come to congratulate you, and none of them are ordinary people. Originally, Ma Yingying was quite satisfied with her own wedding. Now that she has compared it to yours, she can't help but throw a tantrum. Brother, you've really got me into trouble. When Ziren had a bitter look on his face. He pursed his lips, but there was still a strong sense of joy between his eyebrows. Bei-chan sighed. I don't care about this kind of thing. However, when I get married, I naturally can't let my wife suffer the slightest grievance. After hearing Bei-chan's words, Ziren, who had only come to complain, was deeply provoked. Who are you? Hurry up and give me back my original brother. Bei-chan raised his eyebrows. Compared to you who used to worry that I would die alone, you can finally rest assured now. I used to urge you to find a woman because I thought it was abnormal that you didn't get close to women at all. I was afraid that you wouldn't know what to do if you fell in love with me. Ziren shook his head, as if recalling the situation back then, and couldn't help but sigh. However, I didn't expect you to completely change after finding someone you like. This situation of valuing women over friends is far different from what I had imagined. How can someone like you, who has been married for several years, understand my feelings as a newlywed? When Ziren suddenly clutched his chest, as if he had been stabbed by a sword for no reason. His heart hurt so much. Ziren, Bei-chan is busy greeting the guests now. What are you talking about? Shangguan Yingying saw Ziren's exaggerated behavior as soon as she came out, and couldn't help but ask. Seeing Shangguan Yingying, Xiren felt as if he had seen a relative. He quickly waved to Shangwan Yinging. Yinging, Beichen has completely become a beast now. He actually shows off his love in front of a married man like me. Hearing this, Shangwan Yinging couldn't help but chuckle. Today is Beichen's big day. If he doesn't show off his love at this time, when will he? You are too unromantic. How can you compare to Beichen? Puffed. Xiren pretended to vomit blood. My heart hurts. Don't stop me. I have to heal. Don't go too far. When Hong Zhuang comes, I won't have time to greet the guests. You have to come and help. Beast. Chapter 2879. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at Tiangang sect, at first sight, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen's eagerly waiting figure. The red wedding robe on Di Beichen's body was inseparable and magnificent. His figure was thin and tall, slender and noble. The jade belt on his waist fluttered in the wind. He was as elegant as an immortal. His eyes were proud and confident. His handsome face was rippling with a warm and charming smile. His whole body emitted a dazzling light, shining brightly. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's face also raised a deep smile. The curve of his mouth couldn't be taken back, even if he wanted to. Looking at the man in the distance who was also wearing a red wedding robe, Bailey Hongzhuang's cherry-red lips outlined a shallow arc. That was a smile from the heart, which made her beautiful little face more bright and dazzling. The two didn't need to speak. Just by looking at each other's eyes, they could understand the excitement and joy in each other's heart. With the help of the servants, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly got down from the wedding sedan. Under the joyful eyes of the people of Tiangang sect, she walked step by step towards Di Beichen. When the two dazzling red lights converged together, in a split second, the salute was long and the bell and drum were long. Di Beichen stood quietly at the front of the Tiangang sect team. He just watched his most beloved woman walk towards him step by step. His heart was surging with excitement. His handsome and perfect face unconsciously bloomed with a joyful smile. His eyes, as deep as the sea, were shining with a doting light. It seemed that he wanted to melt Bailey Hongzhuang in his infinite tenderness. After Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen, her eyes never moved. Looking at the man who occupied her heart, the things she had experienced over the years were vivid in her mind. Her heart couldn't help but soften. The reason why she was able to walk step by step to the present was that she couldn't do without the company of this man. Not only did this man give her love, but he also helped her find her family. He was also her strong backing. From now on, she would walk hand in hand with this man for the rest of her life. Everything in the future was unknown, but as long as Di Beichen was by her side, she would not be afraid of anything. All the people who had come to attend the wedding had long been curious about Bailey Hongzhuang. Since the Battle of Zhuolu, Bailey Hongzhuang had been like a black horse. From a nobody who no one knew, she had suddenly become an outstanding existence in the younger generation. The young palace master of Limitless Palace was just like the sect master of Limitless Palace. He came out of nowhere and created a sect with lightning speed, becoming one of the heroes of today. Before they could understand more about Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, the news about the Yu clan and the Lan clan quickly spread. Everything happened so fast that people were caught unprepared. Many people didn't even have time to react before the dust settled. The speed was so fast that it made people speechless. Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity was even more shocking. She was supposed to be a proud daughter of heaven, but no one knew of her existence. When they found out about her true identity, she had already become an unshakable existence in the Shengxian continent. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang's name was already well known, there were very few people who had actually seen Bailey Hongzhuang. Only those who had participated in the Battle of Zhuolu knew of Bailey Hongzhuang's true appearance. Chapter 2880. However, when the crowd saw the devastatingly beautiful face, their eyes were filled with shock and amazement. The crowd could not help but gasp. Many of them even forgot to breathe. Does such a stunning beauty really exist? She and Di Beichen looked as if they had walked out from a painting. They were so compatible that it was hard to believe. Heavens, the young sect master of Limitless Palace is as beautiful as a flower. With that appearance, she's truly the only one in this family. The Master and Madam of the Lawn family were famous for their outstanding looks when they were young. Naturally, their daughter would not be too bad. However, after seeing her today, I can't help but be amazed. The disciples of Tiangang's sect felt proud after hearing the discussions of the people from the other forces. Their eldest miss was truly a unique beauty. Previously, there were people who dared to question their eldest Mississippi. Now, they could only shut their mouths obediently. Chin Ai and the rest looked at the two people who could be said to be a match made in heaven. Their eyes were filled with envy and blessings. From today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang was not only the eldest miss of Tiangang's sect, she was also the young sect master's wife. "My wife, you're so beautiful." When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived in front of Di Beichun, Di Beichun also spoke the words in his heart. He had long known that his wife was known as the #1 beauty. However, only he himself knew the magnitude of the shock that Bailey Hongzhuang brought to him today. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart trembled. Her fair and beautiful face was stained with a blush. Even though she had been praised many times today, she could not help but blush under Di Beichun's undisguised loving gaze. The joy and happiness in her heart grew stronger. Di Beichun held Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless little hand. As if he could feel her nervousness, his large hand tightened. Their gazes intertwined as they stared deeply into each other's eyes. All of their deep feelings were expressed without words. Holding your hand and growing old together. From now on, they would only envy Mandarin ducks and not immortals. For a lifetime, a pair of people. Everyone present seemed to be able to understand the depth of their feelings through their deep gazes. In fact, ever since Bailey Hongzhuang took back everything from the Lawn family, her and Di Beichun's identity had gradually spread. Such a beautiful love had almost become a classic that everyone envied. As early as the beginning, Di Beichun's love for a woman without any status or background was already surprising, and now their relationship finally had a perfect ending. It was really enviable. Young sect Master Di and young palace Master Bailey are truly an immortal couple. The depth of their relationship is truly enviable. Everyone couldn't help but be infected by the love between the two of them. They sincerely hoped that they could obtain happiness. Di Beichun took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked step by step on the red carpet towards the wedding hall. The road was very long, spanning over 1,000 meters. Both sides of the red carpet were filled with people who had come to congratulate them. Along the way, fresh flowers were constantly sprinkled around the two of them. The quiet and elegant fragrance matched the bright red color of the flowers. It was a magnificent sight. The two of them walked hand in hand under the gazes of countless people, becoming the center of attention. Chapter 2881. Their faces were filled with blissful and sweet smiles as they walked into the grand hall together. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with joy when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Yunqi walking towards them. Situ Yin and the rest were already in the grand hall, waiting for the two newlyweds to arrive. Lan Yunxiao and the rest had followed the procession to the Tiangang sect. At this moment, they had already entered the grand hall ahead of Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Yunqi. As the crowd watched the two newlyweds walk towards them, the joy on their faces intensified. It was not an easy task to watch them walk step by step to this point. As they walked into the grand hall and looked at the smiling faces around them, Bailey Hongzhuang's initially nervous heart relaxed a little. The usually spacious grand hall was now filled to the brim. Situ Yin, Mu Jints, and the rest were at the front of the hall. There were many unfamiliar faces on both sides of the hall that Bailey Hongzhuang had never seen before. However, from the way these people dressed and their bearing, she could tell that they should be the leaders of the various forces. Among them, Bailey Hongzhuang even saw the medicine sect master. Back then, because she had won the alchemist competition, the medicine sect's sovereign had been very dissatisfied. She did not expect that today, on the day of her and Di Beichun's wedding, The medicine sect sovereign would also come to support them. As a result, the people standing next to the medicine sect master could easily tell. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's trembling little hands due to her nervousness, Di Beichen could not help but tighten his grip. His gentle voice quietly entered Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. "Don't worry, I'm here." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly raised her eyes to look at Di Beichen. The corners of her lips could not help but curl up slightly. Her thumping heart also calmed down a little. With Di Beichen by her side, it was like a reassuring pill. Under the well-wishing gazes of the elders, relatives, and friends, the matron of honor shouted, "The time has come. The auspicious hour has arrived. Bow to the heavens and earth." Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang turned around at the same time and sincerely kowtowed 3 times towards the heavens and the earth at the entrance of the palace. Second, bow to the elders. The two of them turned back to face the laughing Lan Yanxiao, Mu Lingbing, Sitiyan, and Mu Jintz and kowtowed 3 times in gratitude. Di Beichen had no parents, so his master was like a father to him. Husband and wife bow to each other. He turned around again, his eyes filled with deep affection. He bowed once more to the person he would spend the rest of his life with. The ceremony is complete. With this announcement, everyone cheered. The sound of firecrackers and the sound of copper gongs rang throughout the Tiangang sect in an instant. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, and a radiant smile appeared on his handsome and perfect face. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen. At this moment, they only had eyes for each other. After so long, they had finally become each other's rightful other half. Di Beichen was filled with excitement. He had finally married Bailey Hongzhuang in a grand manner. From now on, the entire world would know that Bailey Hongzhuang was his wife. Following this, good friend from both sides swarmed forward and pulled Di Beichen a drink. At the back of the palace, over 1,000 tables had been prepared. The dishes were first class, and it was a spectacular sight. Chapter 2882. In the Bridal Chamber. "Master, why don't we go outside and scout for you?" Xiao Hei's eyes darted around. Even though she was in the room, she could hear the clamor coming from outside. It was very lively. How could Bailey Hongzhuang, their master, not know what they were thinking when she saw the look of anticipation on their faces? What did the 3 beasts love the most? Food. The Tiangang sect was holding a grand banquet today, and there were countless delicacies. These 3 little fellows had probably lost their souls when they heard the news. It was not easy for them to persist in the room until now. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and flicked Xiao Hei's forehead. "You 3 gluttons." Xiao Hei pursed her lips and rubbed her forehead. "Master, we're not doing this for food. We're mainly helping you to check if Di Beichen has drunk too much." "All right, you guys go." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She knew all too well what these 3 fellows were like. However, today was such a joyous day. How could she not let these 3 little fellows go out for a stroll? Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the 3 beasts' eyes lit up and they hurriedly said, "Master, don't worry. We'll pay attention to Di Beichen's movements. We'll be back soon. Just pay attention to your image when you eat." By the time Di Beichen returned, it was already nighttime. Bailey Hongzhuang had been sitting quietly at the head of the bed, waiting for him to return. "Wife, I've been held back by them and can't get away. You're not angry, are you?" Di Beichen walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and spoke with a strong smell of alcohol. "How could I be?" Bailey Hongzhuang stepped forward to support Di Beichen. When she saw how aggressive Ziren and the others were today, she knew that it would not be easy for Di Beichen to get away today. Logically speaking, as a cultivator, drinking alcohol would not have any effect at all. However, cultivators felt that drinking alcohol was too boring. Therefore, everyone drank specially made alcohol. Even cultivators could not expel the smell of alcohol. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to pour Di Beichen some sobering tea, the drunkenness on Di Beichen's face suddenly disappeared. He was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. "What's wrong with you?" Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's two small hands. His eyes were shining like the stars in the sky. There are policies at the top and countermeasures at the bottom. Today is our wedding night. How can I get drunk like this? How did you hide from them? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Di Beichen was able to hide from Xiren and the others. This was too shocking. Master often drinks over the years. I'm the one who drinks the most. Although my alcohol tolerance is not as good as Master's, it's not much different. Although Xiren grew up with me, he was the one who got drunk every time he drank. He doesn't know how much alcohol I can hold. As for Dongfang and the others, they naturally don't know. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang understood. Then how are they now? They're all drunk. However, someone will bring them back. Don't worry. Di Beichen shook his head and smiled. Wife, it's time for us to drink the cross-cup wine. As he spoke, Di Beichen picked up 2 glasses of wine from the table and handed one to Bailey Hongzhuang. Both of his hands held the glass and drank the wine in one gulp. Chapter 2883. After drinking the wine, Di Beichen's eyes blurred as he stared at the stunning beauty in front of him and said, Wifey, I love you. Bailey Hongzhuang blushed slightly, but there was an indescribable satisfaction in her dark and clear eyes. I love you too. After waiting for so long, I've finally married you. Di Beichen smiled. Do you know how happy I am? Actually, even back then, I had already decided that you were the only one for me in this life. Bailey Hongzhuang rarely expressed her feelings so directly to Di Beichen. At this moment, when he heard these words, Di Beichen only felt that the string at the bottom of his heart had been touched, and his taut rationality had completely collapsed at this moment. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a thick shadow approaching her lips. She closed her eyes, her eyelids trembling slightly, and welcomed Di Beichen's thin lips. Di Beichen's kiss was gentle, from shallow to deep, but also extremely hot, as if he wanted to set Bailey Hongzhuang's entire body on fire. Bailey Hongzhuang passively and awkwardly responded to Di Beichen's kiss, and it was this inexperience that aroused Di Beichen's desire. He reached out and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms, domineeringly pressing her under his body. Bailey Hongzhuang blushed as she felt the masculine scent assaulting her nostrils. His strong and powerful hands fanned the flames on her body, making her tremble everywhere he touched. Di Beichen gently kissed Bailey Hongzhuang, and his hot breath continuously sprayed on her face, making her heart pound and itch. An unconcealable heat stimulated her sensitive body. The firm heat pressed against Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Hongzhuang was unable to move under Di Beichen's body. The heat made her confused, and she couldn't help but move a little. And it was this slight movement that made Di Beichen's head explode. This charming little vixen. Didn't she know that this movement was taking his life? Bailey Hongzhuang obviously didn't know this. She only felt a little uncomfortable from the heat, and only wanted to make herself more comfortable. As Bailey Hongzhuang moved, the lust in Di Beichen's eyes deepened. He kissed Bailey Hongzhuang's earlobe, and his sexy and magnetic voice sounded in her ear, Wife, I love you. Bailey Hongzhuang's body trembled slightly, and her hands then wrapped around Di Beichen's waist. Her face was already so red that it could drip blood. This feeling made her nervous, but the other party was Di Beichen, so she didn't resist. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's response, Di Beichen was no longer tense. He reached his hand into Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes, and his rough fingertips brushed against Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate skin. The cold and tender touch made his heart sway. He crazily tore Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes and only felt that everything was unnecessary at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a chill in front of her chest and couldn't help but panic. Then, the strong and hot body covered her body. As if afraid of losing the last layer of cover, Bailey Hongzhuang could only hug Di Beichen tightly. She didn't even dare to open her eyes and didn't dare to look at everything in front of her. Looking down at Bailey Hongzhuang's blushing cheeks and tightly closed eyes, Di Beichen's heart was filled with tenderness. He kept kissing Bailey Hongzhuang's snow-white skin and then gently said in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear, "Don't be afraid." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded almost indiscernibly and endured Di Beichen's everything. Chapter 2884. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen woke up early in the morning to serve tea to Situ Yin and the others. To Di Beichen, Situ Yin and Mu Jintz were his family. Since his parents weren't here, then the tea should be served to Situ Yin and Mu Jintz. Situ Yin and Mu Jin smiled as they gave Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen 2 large red packets. Their eyes were filled with joy. Looking at the newlyweds in front of them, they really liked them no matter how they looked at them. "In the future, you two must support each other and live a good life," Situ Yin said sincerely. "Grandfather, don't worry. We will definitely do that." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were full of smiles and were filled with confidence when they spoke. Lan Yinxiao and the others also woke up early. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came to serve tea, they were already there. In fact, Situ Yin and the others were busy dealing with the aftermath yesterday. A portion of the guests had already left after the banquet, but even more guests stayed the night in Tiangang's sect. However, with Situ Yin and the others' cultivation, it wasn't a problem for them to not sleep for a few days. Beichun, Xiren really drank too much yesterday. After Ying helped him back, it said that he's still asking for more wine. Situ Yin shook his head and sighed. Shangguan Ying was clearly speechless at how drunk Xiren was, so she didn't continue to take care of him. She left Xiren in the room and came out by herself. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and smiled. Among the people who pestered Di Beichen to drink yesterday, Xiren was the one who was the fiercest. Thus, Di Beichen forced Xiren to drink the most. "It's fine. He'll wake up in 2 days," Di Beichen said with a light smile. Shangguan Ying was speechless after seeing Xiren's appearance. Yesterday, she was busy greeting the guests with Mu Jintz and the others. As for when Xiren and Di Beichen drinking together, she didn't pay any attention to it. After all, it was a big day for good brothers to cause a ruckus was very normal. However, she didn't expect that Di Beichen would be so drunk. What she was more worried about was that yesterday was Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's big day. If Di Beichen was also drunk, then wouldn't she be letting Hongzhuang? Thinking of this, she felt that when Xiren was really too stupid, it was enough to cause a ruckus. If Di Beichen was also unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights, how would Hongzhuang feel? However, when Shangguan Ying saw that Di Beichen was refreshed and didn't look drunk at all, she couldn't help but be surprised. "Beichen, you don't look drunk last night." However, according to what Xiren and the others had said, Di Beichen also seemed to be quite drunk. Di Beichen's lips curled into a smile. "Yesterday was such an important day. How could I let my wife stay in the room alone?" Shangguan Ying couldn't help but narrow her eyes when she heard this. She quickly understood the crux of the matter. "Could it be that you were pretending to be drunk last night?" Di Beichen shook his head. "I got them all drunk before going back." Shangguan Ying was speechless. So many people were clamoring to get Di Beichen drunk. In the end, the groom wasn't drunk. Instead, it was everyone else who was drunk. Chapter 2885. Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, congratulations. Mo Yunjue slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Looking at the two of them glued to each other like glue, a trace of sadness flashed across his deep eyes. "Thank you." Di Beichen clasped his hands. Yesterday, the only one who could tell that he was pretending to be drunk was Mo Yunjue. It was just that Mo Yunjue had never said it out loud, because Mo Yunjue was drinking by himself. Even now that he was married to Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue still did not let go of his feelings for Hongzhuang. Di Beichen saw this clearly. No matter what, in this relationship, he was the winner. He admired Mo Yunjue from the bottom of his heart. Now, he only hoped that Mo Yunjue would be able to think through everything and let go of it. Then, they would be great friends. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of smiles. She did not miss the sadness in Mo Yunjue's eyes. She was even more grateful to Mo Yunjue for his help and support. If possible, She really hoped that Mo Yunjue would be able to find his own happiness. A good man like him should find a woman who loves him wholeheartedly and live a happy life. Yunjue, Xiren, and the rest are already drunk to mush. Only you are safe and sound, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue smiled faintly. They didn't know how strong the after effects of the wine were. That's why they were at a disadvantage. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Mo Yunjue and sighed in her heart. This Mo Yunjue was also a hero. It was a pity that he met Di Beichen. I'm here today to say goodbye to you. There's still a lot of things to deal with in Shitian Tower. I've been outside for a long time these days. If I don't go back, my subordinates will complain. Mo Yunjue said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were both startled. Xiren and the rest were going to stay in Tiangang sect for a few more days. They did not expect Mo Yunjue to leave so early. However, in the face of such a Mo Yunjue, they could not say anything to persuade him to stay. Thinking about it, it was torture for Mo Yunjue to stay here for another day. Their only hope was that the next time they saw Mo Yunjue, they could get along as good friends. Come often when you're free next time. Mo Yunjue nodded. Then, I'll leave first. There will be many opportunities to meet in the future. Before leaving, Mo Yunjue took a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if he wanted to imprint her appearance in his heart. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang had married someone else, in his heart, Bailey Hongzhuang would always be a ray of sunshine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stopped and looked at the tall black figure that was gradually moving away. Their hearts were also very complicated. Di Beichen quietly held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and said, Yunjue is a broad-minded person. I believe that the next time we meet, it will be much better. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a bit of guilt in her eyes. She really did not want to hurt Mo Yunjue, but the situation had become like this in the end. When Xiren woke up from his drunken state, it was already 3 days later. He was at a loss and thought that it was the second day after Di Beichen's wedding. However, Shangguan Yingying ruthlessly told him the painful truth. Among everyone, he was the last to wake up. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang saw that he had not woken up for a long time, so they took the lead to go to Wuji Palace. Chapter 2886. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to Limitless Palace together, they received a warm welcome from the disciples of Limitless Palace, as expected. On the day of the wedding, Yulin Feng and Nan Gongwu also brought along the elders of the sect when they went to Tiangang sect. As for the disciples who went to watch the ceremony, only a few of them participated in the Battle of Zhuolu with Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the disciples of Limitless Palace did not witness the spectacular scene of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's wedding with their own eyes, they could imagine it just by imagining it. Back then, when everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was their young palace master, other than doubt, they were even more dissatisfied. Now, after knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was so honorable, everyone could only sigh in admiration. Now, which forces young palace master's limelight could be compared to their young palace master. Just these layers of identity were unattainable by many. Now, when the disciples of Limitless Palace said that they were from Limitless Palace, they enjoyed the envious gazes of others. It was really something to be proud of. Ji Lixue and a group of doctors and poison masters from the Yu clan already knew the true identity of Bailey Hongzhuang. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually Xian Yi. This was simply something that no one dared to think about. However, these two people were really the same person. After the incident with the Lan clan, Ji Lixue and the others already knew the truth of everything. This truth made Ji Lixue feel a sense of lingering fear, but at the same time, she was even more convinced of Bailey Hongzhuang. She could not imagine that the people she recklessly offended were actually Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were not afraid of her at all. In fact, the entire Yu clan was nothing in their eyes. As for herself, she was just as insignificant as an ant in Bailey Hongzhuang and Yu Yang's eyes. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was magnanimous. If she implicated the entire Ji family because of her own problems, the consequences would be unimaginable. What surprised her the most was that Bailey Hongzhuang was still willing to recruit her after all that had happened. If this matter were to be spread out, most people would not believe it. Most importantly, she never thought that the young Bailey Hongzhuang's medical and poison skills would actually surpass Yu Siqing's and become the new master of medicine and poison. All of this made Ji Lishua more determined to stay in Limitless Palace no matter what. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang's magnanimity was something that many people would not be able to do. Situ Yin and Mu Jins had already settled down in Tiangang's sect. Sun Moon Palace had already appeared, but with Gu Jinghe, the great elder, there was no need for Mu Jins to worry. In fact, in the 20 years when she was poisoned, Gu Jinghe had always been in charge of Sun Moon Palace. Speaking of which, Mu Jins was more of a spiritual leader in Sun Moon Palace, while Gu Jinghe was the one who understood Sun Moon Palace's internal and external affairs the most. With Situ Yin and Mu Jins overseeing Tiangang's sect, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun could stay in Limitless Palace and cultivate properly. On the other hand, they wanted to nurture doctors and poison masters. Both of them had already reached the Purple Realm, but cultivation was a never-ending path to begin with. They absolutely couldn't slack off in the slightest. Chapter 2887. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun returned to Limitless Palace, they cultivated in the Heaven Stairway at night. During the day, Bailey Hongzhuang began to nurture doctors and poison masters. Today, Limitless Palace had opened a new branch called the Medical Poison Hall. It was specially built for doctors and poison masters. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang was not around, Yu Linfeng had also recruited a few famous doctors and poison masters to nurture their disciples. Although the time was short, the development was very good. After all, now that the Yu clan had completely disappeared, the major forces did not have much development in this area. Once Limitless Palace nurtured their disciples in this area, their influence would grow in the future. When Bailey Hongzhuang appeared in the Medical Poison Hall, Ji Lishue and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a very complicated gaze. The young palace master in front of them was Xian Yi, who they had interacted with day and night. Many of them had even ostracized and ridiculed Xian Yi before. Now that Xian Yi had become an existence that was beyond their reach, the difference in their hearts was really big. Ji Lishue had already made up her mind that she must stay in Limitless Palace. Therefore, although she had a strange feeling when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she was more calm. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally noticed the reaction of the Medical Poison Hall disciples. After seeing Ji Lishue's calmness, her eyes flashed with gratification. It seemed that her judgment was not wrong. Ji Lishue was indeed a talent that could be nurtured. I believe that everyone is not unfamiliar with me. After all, we have been together for such a long time. I won't say anything else. You don't have to take the matters of the past to heart. Just treat it as today's the first day we know each other. There's no need to feel any psychological pressure. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the disciples present all heaved a sigh of relief, completely relieved. Since everyone was able to pass the Yu clan's examination, your medical and poison skills are naturally not bad. I want to talk about the simple parts. I will start with some pathology. Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the point. She had a certain understanding of the basic skills of this batch of doctors and poison masters. They were not inexperienced doctors and poison masters who had just dabbled in this area. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought of a teaching method in her mind. She did not have any thoughts of hiding her medical and poison skills. Letting more people know about it would also benefit more people. Originally, when everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, they thought that she might not have much experience in teaching. But after Bailey Hongzhuang's step-by-step narration, they realized that Bailey's teaching was much better than other teachers. She could find the roots. And Bailey Hongzhuang's S ends was. This solved the problems that had been troubling everyone in a short period of time, giving them a brand new perspective and a completely different feeling. At the beginning, the disciples were still thinking about other problems. However, as they listened, everyone became completely focused. They listened carefully to every word Bailey Hongzhuang said, afraid that they would miss any details. It's not that Yu Siqing doesn't know how to teach. It's just that she's not willing to teach. The core content has always been in the hands of the Yu clan, so the effect naturally can't be compared. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. Just like when she had stayed in the Yu clan for more than a month, Yu Siqing was not willing to teach her anything. This kind of selfish person would only feel at ease if they had everything in their hands. I heard from the elders of the Poison Hall that Ji Lixue and the others have made great progress. If this continues, it won't be long before they are able to stand on their own. Yu Linfeng slowly walked over from the back. He had just returned to Limitless Palace not long ago, and he had also heard a lot of news from the various elders. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head lightly, a satisfied look on her face. Chapter 2889. The current Medical Poison Hall not only had Limitless Palace's disciples, there were also many Lan clan's disciples. The Lan clan had always had a good relationship with the Yu clan. Thus, the Lan clan had many doctors and poison masters. It was just that although the Yu clan and the Lan clan were connected by marriage previously, and although the Yu clan taught the Lan clan's disciples more content, they didn't put in the effort to teach the exquisite parts. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was teaching them all by herself in Limitless Palace, many of the Lan clan's disciples wanted to learn from Bailey Hongzhuang. After knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally did not object. In addition, the Lan clan and Limitless Palace's relationship was very close. Everything was very simple. After getting her revenge, Bailey Hongzhuang's days were peaceful and happy. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were inseparable. Their married life was much sweeter than before. From time to time, Di Beichen would bring Bailey Hongzhuang out to travel. They were really living the life of an immortal couple. The only thing that Bailey Hongzhuang was dissatisfied with was that Di Beichen's cursed body was still missing 2 ingredients. She had already sent people to inquire about it, but there was still no news. Although the amethyst, dragon emperor ginseng, and the tears of frigid flame are very rare and precious ingredients, it shouldn't be to the extent that the entire Shangxian continent doesn't have them, right? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. As long as Di Beichen's cursed body was not solved, it would be a ticking time bomb. Sooner or later, it would explode. Master, no matter if it's Tiangong sect, Limitless Palace, Sun Moon Palace, or the Lan clan, they're all looking for these 2 ingredients. The other forces also know about this. Logically speaking, if the other forces have these ingredients, they should be willing to do us a favor. There's no news for so long. Could it be that these 2 ingredients are already extinct? Xiaohei sighed. Although their master seemed to be very happy during this period of time, they all knew that their master had been worried about this problem. It was just that she had never shown it in front of Di Beichen. Upon hearing Xiaohei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but reveal a deep sense of worry in her eyes. Logically speaking, that shouldn't be the case. There was a hint of hesitation in her light and pleasant voice. There had been no news for so long. Even Bailey Hongzhuang herself was unsure. If these 2 medicinal herbs really didn't exist anymore, that was something she couldn't accept. After experiencing so many things, now the bitterness was finally over. With Di Beichen by her side, such a day was a happiness she had never enjoyed before. She couldn't imagine what would happen if Di Beichen's health problems couldn't be solved. These 2 herbs are so rare that the other factions might not have noticed them. Just because there's no news now doesn't mean there won't be any news in the future. Master, don't worry too much. Baisher could not help but comfort her. I hope so. Bailey Hongzhuang mumbled to herself. In her mind, she was thinking that if she still couldn't get any news, she would have to think of a way to find them herself. Otherwise, if she continued to wait like this, it would be too late once the time was up. When Di Beichen walked into the room, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang standing by the windowsill with a pensive look on her face. He slowly walked behind Bailey Hongzhuang and wrapped his arms around Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist, pulling her into his arms. Chapter 2890. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't turn her head when she sensed Di Beichen's aura. Instead, she leaned into Di Beichen's embrace, and a sweet smile appeared on her exquisite jade-like face. Nothing much. I just feel that I've been living a very comfortable life recently. I hope that it will always be like this in the future. Di Beichen played with Bailey Hongzhuang's jade-like hands. Wife, I can tell that you have something on your mind recently. Why don't you tell me about it? Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had been together for so long. How could he not understand Bailey Hongzhuang's personality? When they had just gotten married, Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed very happy every day and was immersed in happiness. However, he could sense that Bailey Hongzhuang's mood had obviously changed a little. It was just that she didn't show it in front of him. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled when she heard Di Beichen's words. She had disguised herself very well in the future, but she didn't expect that she still couldn't hide it from Di Beichen. She slowly turned around and stared at Di Beichen with her pitch-black eyes. She quietly wrapped her arms around Di Beichen's back and sighed. Her beautiful face was pressed against Di Beichen's chest, and she could feel Di Beichen's strong and powerful heartbeat. Beichen, I've been living a very happy life recently. Bailey Hongzhuang murmured. It's just that the problem with your constitution hasn't been solved. With Di Beichen's intelligence and wisdom, since he could see that she had something on her mind, he should be able to guess the specific situation. There was no need to hide it anymore. Di Beichen stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's silky black hair. I've made you worry. I've already spread the news, but there hasn't been any news about these two herbs. If this continues, it won't be good for you. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with worry. She could only suppress this cursed body within a certain range. Once she went beyond this range, the problem would become much more complicated. Don't worry, we'll definitely find them. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. He could feel Bailey Hongzhuang's worry and fear. Bailey Hongzhuang's deep feelings for him. It seems that we've searched all the possible places. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gloomy. This whole time, she had been comforting herself, but as time went by, she couldn't even comfort herself anymore. There's always a way out. We've gone through so many twists and turns in the past. We'll definitely be able to find these two herbs. Di Beichen gently patted Bailey Hongzhuang. His voice was extremely gentle. The Cloud Sword sect also has many treasures. I'll get Xiren to search their treasure vault and see if they have these two herbs. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. No matter what method it was, they had to try it. A complicated light flashed across Di Beichen's dark and deep eyes. He felt very helpless about his own physique. Until now, he only knew that he had such a strange physique. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't come into contact with the cursed body in her past life, he probably wouldn't have known what was going on in this lifetime. It wasn't easy for him to be able to walk together with Bailey Hongzhuang. He absolutely didn't want to hurt Bailey Hongzhuang because of something like this. He must find these herbs. Chapter 2891. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang was teaching her disciples in the poison hall. Suddenly, Nangong Wu came to the poison hall. Just looking at Nangong Wu's ugly expression, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that something must have happened. She immediately walked out of the hall. Hongzhuang, it's not good. Beichen suddenly fainted. Nangong Wu's face revealed a bit of panic. Di Beichen was chatting happily with Yulinfeng. She didn't expect that he would suddenly faint. No matter how they shouted, there was no response. Hearing Nangong Wu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. In the next second, she immediately ran in the direction of the palace. Nangong Wu also followed closely behind Bailey Hongzhuang. The thing she was most worried about had happened. He suddenly fainted. It must be that the cursed physique was starting to lose control. However, the speed of the outbreak was much faster than she imagined. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the palace, she saw that Di Beichen was unconscious. She quickly took Di Beichen's pulse. Her expression was heavy and full of worry. Nangong Wu and Yulinfeng quietly guarded by the side. They vaguely had some expectations in their hearts. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang asked them to spread the news to find the amethyst dragon emperor ginseng and the tears of frostfire, they deliberately asked Di Beichin. It turned out that there was a problem with Di Beichin's physique. A moment later, Bailey Hongzhuang put Di Beichin's hand back under the blanket. The grave expression on her face became more and more intense. Hongzhuang, how is Beichin's situation? Nangongwu couldn't help but ask. Yulin Feng also said, is it because of the problem with his physique? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. His cursed body seems to be even purer than I thought. So the speed of the outbreak is faster than I thought. As soon as he said that, Nangongwu and Yulin Feng looked at each other, and the worry on their faces deepened. So the situation is getting worse. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She nodded and then shook her head. This is a double-edged sword. If this cursed body is not resolved, Beichin's situation will only worsen. On the other hand, if Beichin's cursed physique turned into a heaven's will physique, then the purer his cursed physique would be, the more powerful his cultivation talents would be. He would be a true genius. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find those 2 medicinal herbs. I just don't understand. Are these 2 medicinal herbs so rare that they can't be found even after searching the entire Shengxian continent? Nangongwu couldn't hide the annoyance on her face. She clearly knew the solution, but she didn't have the medicinal herbs. This was too depressing. Moreover, judging from Di Beichin's situation, she was afraid that this wouldn't be able to delay it for long. Hongzhuang, what about Beichin now? Can he still wake up? Yu Linfeng's face was solemn. Di Beichin had stayed in the Tiangang sect for such a long time that Yu Linfeng also treated Di Beichin as his own junior. Now that he saw Di Beichin in such a state, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. The situation now is a little complicated. It won't be easy to wake Beichin up. I have to think about it. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that her emotions were incomparably flustered. Even when she wanted to take revenge, she had never been so flustered and afraid. Di Beichin's fainting had tightened the string in her heart. This kind of worry and fear was not something that others could understand. Chapter 2892. After knowing that Di Beichin had fainted, Si Tian, Mu Jintz, Lan Yunxiao, Mu Lingbing, Xiren, and Shangguan Ying immediately rushed to Limitless Palace. When Xiren saw the unconscious Di Beichin, a vexed expression appeared on his face. Damn it, I've searched through the treasury of the Cloud Sword sect, but couldn't find these 2 medicinal ingredients. I've also asked around in other places, but couldn't find them. Why are these 2 medicinal ingredients so unorthodox? Xiren clenched his fists tightly. There was no longer the joking expression on his face. He and Di Beichin had grown up together and could be said to be true brothers. Now that Di Beichin had become like this, he felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. The last time Beichin told us about this, he was still fine. How did he suddenly become like this? Shangguan Ying couldn't help but ask. Previously, I had already discovered that this cursed physique was becoming more and more uncontrollable. Now, it can be said to have completely erupted. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed, her face somewhat haggard. Yishuan, although Beichin's physique problem is very important, you have to take care of yourself. Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with heartache. She really didn't understand why the heavens would treat Hongzhuang like this. She had suffered too much. It wasn't easy for the bitterness to end, and now Di Beichin's physique problem flared up again. If they couldn't find those 2 medicinal ingredients, the following situation was simply unimaginable. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Ever since Di Beichin had fainted, she had been thinking about how to wake Di Beichin up. In a place where no one could see, she had also shed tears. However, she knew that she absolutely couldn't fall at this time. Just as Di Beichin had said, there was always a way out. She believed that God would not be too cruel to them. I've sent people to investigate these 2 medicinal herbs. In the past, the medicine sect had sent people to collect these 2 medicinal herbs. However, the medicine sect consumes a large amount of medicinal herbs all year round, so I didn't pay much attention to it. Over the past few days, I've sent people to search for information about this, and I've only received this information. Before this, I had asked the medicine sect, and the medicine sect had said that they didn't have these two medicinal herbs. Situ Yin said in a deep voice. Other than Bailey Hongzhuang, Situ Yin was the most worried. He had raised Di Beichen and had long regarded Di Beichen as his own grandson. Now, looking at Di Beichen's pale face, he felt his heart ache. Hearing Situ Yan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel puzzled. Based on what I know, the possibility of the Violet Dragon Emperor ginseng and the tears of frigid flame being needed to refine pills is very small. Why would the medicine sect collect these two medicinal herbs? Could it be that the medicine sect knows that we need these two medicinal herbs, but purposely didn't give them to us just to negotiate? When Xiren's expression turned ugly, he had seen this kind of situation many times before. Situ Yin pondered for a moment, but did not give a definite answer. It looks like we need to make a trip to the medicine sect. Lan Yinxiao spoke up. Regardless of whether the medicine sect had purposely kept the medicinal herbs to negotiate with them, or if they had really used them, they had to personally inquire. Chapter 2893. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded at Lan Yunxiao's words. To them, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, they would never give up. I'll stabilize Beichen's condition first before we set off. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's exhausted and haggard appearance and couldn't help but express her concern. Yixuan, you've worked hard during this period of time. Why don't you let us make a trip to the medicine sect? She understood the feelings between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen all too well. Now that Di Beichen has become like this, Bailey Hongzhuang must be both mentally and physically exhausted. She would have to rush about again. As a mother, her heart ached at the sight of this. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I have a better understanding of medicinal herbs. It's better for me to go. The others did not know much about the amethyst dragon emperor ginseng and the tears of frigid flame. If the medicine sect intended to deceive them, they would not be able to tell. As long as she was there, it would not be easy for the medicine sect to deceive them. Most importantly, based on Di Beichen's current condition, they could not delay any longer. The sooner they received news, the more hope they would have. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao looked at each other, and it did not continue to stop them. Under these circumstances, even if they allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to stay in the Limitless Palace, she would not be able to rest well. It would be better for her to go with them to the medicine sect. That way, they would be more at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang watched over Di Beichen for an entire night. She only relaxed after confirming that Di Beichen would not encounter any problems in the following days. Beichen, don't worry. I'll find a way. Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand and murmured gently. She would not let Di Beichen leave her. She would protect her own happiness. When Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, Si Tian and the rest were already waiting for her. Let's go. This time, only Si Tian and Lan Yunxiao were heading to the medicine sect. Mu Lingbing had originally planned to go with them, but Lan Yunxiao felt that there was no need for so many people to go with them. It would be better for Mu Lingbing to stay in the Tiangang sect and pay attention to Di Beichen's condition. In response, Mu Lingbing nodded her head. She knew that she would not be of much use even if she went along. On the contrary, she did not know what the medicine sect would think if a large group of people went. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were about to set off, when Xiren and Shangwan Yingying also followed. Hongzhuang, let's go together. Xiren's face was full of seriousness. It was obvious that he had already made up his mind on this matter. Di Beichen was his best brother in this lifetime. Now that his brother was in trouble, he could not just sit around and wait for death. Instead of sitting around and worrying, he might as well go along. Who knows, he might even be able to help. Shangwan Yingying's attitude was the same as when Xiren's. The three of them had been good friends for so many years. The fact that they were unable to help Di Beichen was already very upsetting to them. At the very least, they had to do something. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Si Tuyin and Lan Yunxiao. They had originally planned to go as the three of them. Yin thought for a moment before nodding and saying, "Let's go together." As members of the Cloud Sword sect, Xiren and Shangwan Ying's purpose in going was different. This time, they were not going to cause trouble for the medicine sect. They only wanted to obtain some useful information from the medicine sect. Chapter 2894. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest arrived at the medicine sect, the sect leader of the medicine sect, Gu Weisheng, was very surprised to see them. However, after thinking about it carefully, Gu Weisheng understood the purpose of Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's visit. Sect leader Situ, what a rare guest. Gu Weisheng smiled as he welcomed them. Although there had been some conflict between him and Situ Yin because of the alchemist competition, the conflict had been resolved after he had attended Bailey Hongzhuang's wedding. After all, in many sects, such small frictions often occurred. Now that Tiangang's sect status was different, he would naturally not play such petty tricks in the future. Seeing Gu Weisheng's enthusiastic look, Situ Yin smiled. However, his smile did not reach his eyes. It was not because he still bore a grudge against Gu Weisheng for what had happened previously, but because he was worried about Bewitching and could not feel happy at all. Master Lan, young Palace Lord Bailey, young Sect Master 1, young Sect Master's wife, your presence brings light to the medicine sect's humble dwelling. Gu Weisheng was secretly surprised. Although only 5 people had come, these 5 people represented 4 different forces. If he did not receive them well, he would be in deep trouble. Sect Leader Gu, I'm sure you know the purpose of our visit today. Situ Yin was not in the mood to talk about other things and went straight to the point. Hearing Situ Yan's words, Gu Weisheng looked at the serious expressions on Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's faces and was puzzled. What on earth had happened? Why would they show such expressions? Were those 2 medicinal herbs really that important to them? Seeing this, Gu Weisheng no longer pretended not to understand and asked, "Are you here for those 2 medicinal herbs?" Sitia nodded and said seriously, "That's right. If sect leader Gu has those 2 medicinal herbs, I hope you can take them out. We can discuss any conditions in exchange." Gu Weisheng was even more surprised when he heard Si Tuyin say something like that. This meant that he could ask for as much as he wanted. With Si Tuyan's experience, he would normally not say such words. It could be seen that these 2 medicinal herbs were really important to them. Sect Master Situ, it's not that I don't want to help you in this matter. If the medicine sect had these 2 herbs, I would have taken them out a long time ago. The reason why we haven't taken them out is because we really don't have them. Gu Weisheng sighed. With Tiangang's sect's current status and influence, he was eager for Tiangang's sect to owe him a favor, but he really didn't. Sect Leader Gu, I heard that you have purposely purchased these 2 medicinal herbs before. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke. Her pitch-black eyes flickered with a shrewd and far-sighted light. According to my understanding, the possibility of these 2 medicinal herbs being used in refining medicine is very small. I wonder if Sect Master Gu could tell me the reason why you're purchasing these 2 medicinal herbs? Bailey Hongzhuang was very confident. Although she did not know all the pill formulas in the world, she knew most of them. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Gu Weisheng was slightly stunned. He had forgotten that Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in the art of refining pills were extremely shocking. Chapter 2895. Young Palace Master Bailey. The use of these herbs is an internal matter of our sect. What I can tell you is that our sect doesn't have these 2 herbs anymore. Gu Weisheng's tone was serious. I can vouch for this with my moral standing. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of Situ Yin and the others could not help but become unsightly. In fact, they would rather Gu Weisheng was lying to them. That way, they would at least have a chance to obtain these 2 herbs. Since Gu Weisheng had said this, they were afraid that they really didn't have them. Sect Master Gu, it's not that we doubt you, but can't you tell us the use of these 2 herbs? Xiren couldn't help but ask. Right now, the medicine sect was their only hope. Regardless of whether they could obtain these 2 herbs in the end, they had to at least give them a definite answer. Young Sect Master 1, I've already said what I need to say. We really don't have these herbs. What's the point of knowing their use? This is an internal matter of our medicine sect. Gu Weisheng's expression was calm. It was obvious that he had already made up his mind and wasn't willing to speak. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's people couldn't help but frown. They felt that there was something fishy about this matter. If it was just an ordinary use, Gu Weisheng wouldn't need to hide it and would just tell them directly. However, his current appearance made them even more suspicious. Sectmaster Gu, why don't we get straight to the point? Lan Yinxiao looked at Gu Weisheng with a serious expression on his elegant and handsome face. What do you want in order for you to tell us the specific use of these herbs? To be honest, these two medicinal ingredients have life-saving uses for us. If you don't tell us the specific uses, we will definitely have doubts in our hearts. If this affects the friendship between us and your sect, that wouldn't be too good. Gu Weisheng's expression couldn't help but change at Lan Yinxiao's words. Ever since Lan Yinxiao became the Lan family head, Gu Weisheng hadn't had the chance to interact with him. Previously, he hadn't seen Lan Yinxiao speak, so he didn't pay much attention to him. However, he didn't expect that Lan Yinxiao would poke at the crux of the matter. A threat. Lan Yinxiao was threatening him. If he didn't clearly tell them about this matter, then it would mean that the Tiangang sect, Limitless Palace, Lan clan, and even the Cloudword sect would become enemies with their medicine sect. Such a great price indeed caused him to have to carefully consider it. Situ Yin quietly glanced at Lan Yinxiao with admiration in his eyes. His son-in-law's ability was truly outstanding. No wonder the entire Lan family supported him to become the next family head. Lan family head, you're making things difficult for me, Gu Weisheng said in a deep voice. If it weren't for the fact that this matter is far too important to us, we would not have made things difficult for you. As long as you're willing to tell us about this matter, we will continue to maintain our friendship with the medicine sect. Lan Yinxiao's attitude didn't change. His eyes were clear and his tone was very sincere. This was often the case when two organizations come into contact with each other. Now that they were the stronger party, unless the medicine sect wants to make an enemy out of them, Gu Weisheng could only carefully think of a way to resolve this matter. Chapter 2896. Gu Weisheng had a troubled expression on his face. However, when he noticed Situ Yan's gloomy expression, he knew that things were not going well. He had known Situ Yan for many years, so he understood Situ Yan's personality very well. Once Situ Yan showed such an expression, it meant that he was truly enraged. Therefore, he had to think carefully about how to solve this problem. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome. As far as he knew, Limitless Palace was currently developing the art of medicine and poison. Furthermore, it was developing quite well. It was obvious that they wanted to replace the Yu family. Once they had developed, Limitless Palace's influence would reach its peak. If that was the case, things would become complicated if they were to become enemies with them. Sectmaster C2, please calm down. Let me think about this first. Gu Weisheng looked at Situ Yan with a complicated look on his face as he slowly spoke. When they saw Gu Weisheng's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other. They already understood that Gu Weisheng was most likely going to tell them. However, Bailey Hongzhuang also had some doubts in her heart. There were only a few uses for these medicinal herbs. Gu Weisheng could have just told them directly. However, his hesitant look was definitely not because he was playing hard to get or because he wanted to use this opportunity to gain more benefits. Instead, he really did have some misgivings. This was very strange. Gu Weisheng thought for a moment before he said, I can tell you about this. However, aside from the items that you have to give in exchange, I have another request. Please speak. After I tell you about this, I hope that you won't tell anyone else. Gu Weisheng's expression was solemn and serious. His gaze continuously swept across Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If you can't guarantee this, then even if you want to become enemies with the medicine sect, I won't tell you. When they saw Gu Weisheng's attitude, Situ Yan and the others realized that this was not an ordinary matter. It probably involved the medicine sect's secret. I swear that we won't tell anyone about this. Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate at all. To her, She did not care about the medicine sect's secret. She only wanted to know if the medicine sect had lied to her about this matter. If she could obtain some information about these two medicinal herbs, that would be great. We can also swear an oath, Situ Yin and the others quickly said. Seeing the attitude of Situ Yin and the others, Gu Weisheng heaved a sigh of relief. As cultivators, especially those who had reached the status of Situ Yin and the others, their promises were extremely trustworthy. If that's the case, I can tell you, but you have to give me something in exchange. Speak your mind. In the next second, Gu Weisheng's gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. I heard that young Palace Master Bailey has the pill formula for the rejuvenation pill. As soon as he said that, Situ Yin and the others could not help but change their expressions. Sect leader Gu, although your information is very secretive, the rejuvenation pill's formula is extremely precious. You're asking for too much. Gu Weisheng was stunned and quickly said, "You've misunderstood. I don't want this rejuvenation pill's pill formula. I just want to ask for a rejuvenation pill from young Palace Master Bailey." Hearing this, Situ Yin and the others' expression softened. However, their eyes then turned towards Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't know much about alchemists, but they knew in their hearts that Gu Weisheng wanted this rejuvenation pill. It was likely that a large part of the reason was that he wanted to research the true formula of this rejuvenation pill. Chapter 2897. To Bailey Hongzhuang, nothing was more important than Bewitching's safety. Even though the miracle cure pill's formula was precious, it was only a benefit. Bewitching was her everything. Besides, even if the medicine sect had obtained the miracle cure pill, it would not be an easy task to research the pill formula from just one pill. If it were that simple, all pill formulas in the Shangxian continent would be transparent and would not be considered a secret at all. Gu Weisheng's eyes flashed with shock when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had agreed without any hesitation. Ever since the news of Bailey Hongzhuang possessing the miracle cure pill's formula had spread, many organizations had requested to obtain the miracle cure pill. After all, no one wanted to see the day when their appearance would age. As a cultivator, their lifespan was naturally longer than that of an ordinary person. It would be best if their appearance could remain unchanged. However, up until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had not produced a single miracle cure pill. Even though many people were envious, there was nothing they could do about it. Even Gu Weisheng himself felt envious when he saw that Situ Yin had regained his youthful appearance. Since that's the case, it's settled then. Gu Weisheng smiled. I don't have any miracle cure pills on me at the moment. I'll send someone to deliver them to you personally in a few days. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Based on young Palace Master Bailey's character, I naturally trust you. Now, can you tell me what's going on? Gu Weisheng looked at the crowd before he said, Actually, I didn't collect these two medicinal herbs for my own use. Another organization had asked me to find them for them. Once I'd found them, I immediately sent them over. I've never used them myself. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, and in their hearts, there was a bit of disbelief. What kind of organization would ask the medicine sect to find them for them? Situ Yin quickly asked. If it was only a vague answer, it would not be worth a single miracle cure pill at all. Since we've come to this point, I won't hide it anymore. Gu Weisheng's expression was serious. Sect Master Situ, at our level, I'm sure we all know about Penglai Island, right? As soon as these words came out, Situ Yan's expression couldn't help but change. His voice also lowered a bit. You mean the news from Penglai Island asked you to collect these two medicinal herbs? Gu Weisheng nodded. That's right. Who are you? Did he mention the reason for collecting these two medicinal herbs? Gu Weisheng shook his head. You know as well that no one on Penglai Island is simple. The medicine sect has always needed many medicinal herbs, so we have a certain connection with Penglai Island's auction house. The reason why I collected these two herbs was because of the news from the auction house. I just wanted to exchange them for some other things. According to the information I received, there should be someone on Penglai Island who purposely collected these two medicinal herbs. I have already sent all the herbs I collected to Penglai Island. These two kinds of herbs are very precious, and the production is very low. I haven't collected them in recent years. I see. A look of understanding flashed across Situ Yan's face. I didn't know that the medicine sect had a connection with Penglai Island. Chapter 2898. Situ Yan nodded. Don't worry. Since we've already made a promise, we naturally won't tell anyone about this. That's good. Gu Weisheng finally revealed a relieved smile. If it was anyone else, Gu Weisheng would definitely not reveal this matter. However, the pressure brought by Situ Yan's group wasn't small, and he trusted Situ Yan's character. Although Situ Yan understood everything, Bailey Hongzhuang, Wen Ziren, and Shangwan Yingying were all confused. Penglai Island? They had never heard of such a place before. Lan Yunxiao's expression also changed. When he heard the words Penglai Island, he already understood why Gu Weisheng was so careful about this matter. It turned out that it involved such a colossus. Sect Master Gu, is the auction house you're talking about the only one on Penglai Island? Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but ask. Since that auction house had collected these two medicinal ingredients, perhaps it still had them. No matter what, this was still a glimmer of hope. Gu Weisheng didn't find it strange that Lan Yunxiao knew about Penglai Island. In fact, all the leaders of the various large factions knew about Penglai Island. The reason why news about Penglai Island rarely spread was because it was simply too powerful. Ordinary people simply couldn't come into contact with it. That's right. There's only one auction house. Many thanks. Lan Yunxiao cupped his hands. It seems that we've obtained all the information we wanted. In that case, we won't continue to disturb you. We'll send someone to deliver the rejuvenation pill in a few days. There's no rush for the rejuvenation pill. Gu Weisheng revealed a smile. Since you all have matters to attend to, I won't keep you any longer. Farewell. Farewell. Soon after, Situ Yan's group left the medicine sect. They had already obtained all the information they wanted. From Gu Weisheng's attitude, they could see that he had already said everything he needed to say. There was no meaning in staying any longer. Grandfather, father, what exactly is this Penglai Island? Bailey Hongzhuang's bright black phoenix eyes were filled with doubt. She didn't understand why Si Tian and Lan Yunxiao's faces changed like that when they heard about Penglai Island. What kind of existence was that? With their status, how could they avoid mentioning Penglai Island so much? Ziren and Shangwan Yingying were also confused. They stared at Situ Yan and Shangwan Yingying, wanting to know the answer from them. The Shangxian continent is vast and boundless, and there are countless great powers. Naturally, there are even more experts among experts. Actually, although we are already considered a top force in the Shangxian continent, there is still a place with a transcendent position called the Penglai Island. CTN looked at the confused faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two and opened his mouth to explain. Normal people might not even know of the existence of Penglai Island in their entire lives. In fact, only those who have reached the 5th level of the Purple Realm and above can come into contact with Penglai Island. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but gasp. 5th level of the Purple Realm. Even in the entire Shangxian continent, there weren't many who had reached this level. Chapter 2899. If you want to enter Penglai Island, you must be at least at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. That place is filled with true experts. Actually, the number of cultivators in the Shangxian continent is enormous, so the number of experts is much more than you can imagine. However, many of these experts have gone to Penglai Island, so you don't think there are many of them. Hearing Si Tian's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with understanding. She had thought about this problem before. In her previous life, the number of experts in the Shangxian continent wasn't small. In comparison, the number of experts in the Shangxian continent 1,000 years later was much less. So it turned out that Penglai Island was one of them. Penglai Island is where all the experts gather? Then why do they gather there? Ziren was still confused and couldn't understand. Sidian pondered for a moment, then shook his head. I'm also not sure about this point. According to what I know, Penglai Island is a very mystical place. The cultivation resources there are much more abundant than here. It seems that all the best resources in the Shangxian continent are gathered there. Moreover, people with abnormally powerful cultivations often appear there. As for how they came to be, no one knows. Lan Yunxiao slowly said, I've only heard about it. I've never been to Penglai Island myself. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but fall into silence after hearing this. Even Si Tian and Lan Yunxiao didn't know about it. It seemed that there were very few people who knew about Penglai Island. In that case, the Amethyst Dragon Emperor Ginseng and the Tears of Frigid Flame should be on Penglai Island. I'm afraid that we've already collected all of them here. Xiren's voice was heavy. Then what should we do about Beichin? This kind of precious medicinal ingredient was something that could only be encountered and not sought. Since it had already been collected, it would be extremely difficult to find it again. As soon as these words came out, the hearts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but sink. This was the biggest problem. Only those who have reached the 5th level of the Purple Realm can go to Penglai Island? Bailey Hongzhuang asked unwillingly. Right now, Penglai Island's auction house was their only chance. However, her current cultivation was only at the 2nd level of the Purple Realm. She originally thought that her cultivation speed was already not slow, but it was clear that there was still a large gap between her and the 5th level of the Purple Realm. By the time she raised her strength to the 5th level of the Purple Realm, it would be too late. Lan Yunxiao shook his head. That's not the case. There are always other ways to lower the conditions. What is it? You and Beichun are both inheritors of the Blood Tower, so you only need to reach the 1st level of the Purple Realm to enter Penglai Island. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Why is that? Ever since she obtained the inheritance of the Blood Tower, the Blood Chi Field had helped her a lot. However, she never thought that the Blood Chi Field would be able to lower the conditions to enter Penglai Island. This was truly strange. There's no need to find it strange. It's because the demonic cultivation abyss of the 3 Great Abyss is on Penglai Island. As the inheritors of the Bloodground Abyss, you can enter Penglai Island earlier than others. I see. Chapter 2900. Among them, the Bloodground Abyss and the Demonic Cultivation Abyss were places that everyone had the opportunity to visit. As for the Bitter Sea Abyss, no one knew where it was. However, ever since Bailey Hongzhuang came into contact with the Bloodground Abyss, she had never heard of the Demonic Cultivation Abyss. She had once asked Di Beichin about this, but Di Beichin clearly didn't know much about it either. Thus, she had always been doubtful about it. She didn't expect the Demonic Cultivation Abyss to be on Penglai Island. Xiren and Shangwan Yingying also widened their mouths. They originally thought that they already knew enough about the Shangxian continent, but now it seemed that there were still many secrets that they didn't know. In that case, I can go to Penglai Island. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. No matter what, as long as there was a chance, it was extremely good. Perhaps, after reaching Penglai Island, they could obtain these 2 medicinal herbs from the auction house. Although the process wouldn't be simple just by thinking about it, it was still an opportunity that they absolutely couldn't give up. The medicine sect's influence on the Shangxian continent was not small. Furthermore, it was the gathering place for alchemists, so it had the most channels to collect medicinal herbs. In the past 2 years, even the medicine sect couldn't collect them, so it was likely that they wouldn't be able to find them in the Shangxian continent. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lan Yunxiao and the others' expressions couldn't help but become more serious. Yishuan, this matter isn't that simple. Although you can enter Penglai Island with your current cultivation, there are countless experts there. The weakest one is at least at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. If you go, it will be very dangerous. Lan Yunxiao's voice was slightly heavy. In my opinion, why don't you let me go? In the Shangxian continent, with their cultivation, they didn't need to worry about anything. However, once they went to Penglai Island, they would need to be careful everywhere. The slightest carelessness could cause them to lose their lives. And with Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation, the possibility of losing her life was even greater. That's right. Why don't Yin Xiao and I go to Penglai Island? Hongzhuang, you stay in Limitless Palace and take good care of Beichin. We will think of a way to get the herbs back. Situ Yin nodded. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. She really didn't want her grandfather and father to take such a risk because of them. Whether it was Situ Yin or Lan Yinxiao, they had suffered many hardships in the past few years. It wasn't easy for them to have their current carefree days. Bailey Hongzhuang would not be able to accept it if something happened during the trip to Penglai Island. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang already had an answer. Grandfather, father, I know you're doing this for my own good, but this is between me and Beichin. Let's settle it ourselves. No matter what the future was like, whether they could return safely or not, this was their fate. It was never Bailey Hongzhuang's style to sit and wait for death. She also couldn't accept watching her loved ones risk their lives for her. Thus, this was her answer. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's decision attracted the unanimous opposition of Situ Yin and Lan Yinxiao. No, the risk is too great. Absolutely not. This was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had seen Situ Yin and Lan Yinxiao's expressions of rejection. While she was astonished, she couldn't help but feel a bit of warmth in her heart. Chapter 2901. Seeing Situ Yin and Lan Yinxiao's unyielding attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang knew she wouldn't be able to convince them in a short time. She couldn't help but say, "Why don't we return to Limitless Palace first and discuss this matter later?" Hearing this, Situ Yin and Lan Yinxiao's expressions eased a little as they nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang had already overcome all obstacles to get to where she was now. She hadn't even lived a comfortable life for long before something like this happened. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous sufferings were all because of them. How could they bear to see their granddaughter endure this kind of danger again? Lan Yinxiao had already made up his mind. In the past, he didn't take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and doted on her like she was the apple of his eye. But now, he had to shelter his daughter from the wind and rain. Otherwise, he wasn't fit to be a father. Xiren and Shangwan Yingying couldn't help but look at each other when they saw this scene. Beichin's problem was much more serious than they imagined. Even if they really went to Penglai Island, they couldn't guarantee that they would be able to find these two medicinal ingredients. On the contrary, they might even lose their lives. Speaking of which, the current situation was truly perplexing. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group returned to Limitless Palace, Mu Lingbing and the rest immediately rushed over to ask about the results. However, Mu Lingbing and the rest's hearts sank when they heard the news. This wasn't good news at all. It could only be said that there was a glimmer of hope amidst all the bad news. Yishuan, your father is right. Let him go. You stay here and wait for the news. Mu Lingbing's eyes flashed with determination. Although Penglai Island was filled with experts and their future was uncertain, she still believed in Lan Yinxiao's ability. Apart from this method, there was no better way. I'll go with you. Yu Linfeng followed up and said, I was originally very curious about this Penglai Island and wanted to explore it for a long time. It's just that Limitless Palace had many trivial matters that I was worried about. Now that Hongzhuang is here, I can go and take a look with peace of mind. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Yu Linfeng. They didn't expect Yu Linfeng to make such a decision. Although Yu Linfeng said that he wanted to take a look himself, everyone knew in their hearts that the reason he did so was entirely because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing that everyone was so considerate of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also moved. There's no need to rush now. Let me think of other ways to stabilize Beichin's condition first. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, I still have a seed of the sacred ice lotus. It should be of some help to Beichin's condition. The seed of the sacred ice lotus was a treasure that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained during the Battle of Zhuolu. It had the effect of reviving the dead. Although Beichin's condition wasn't reviving the dead, the effects of the sacred ice lotus couldn't be ignored. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes lit up. Everyone had heard of the sacred ice lotus. It was more precious than the amethyst dragon emperor ginseng and the tears of frigid flame. It was something that could only be encountered by chance. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have it. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.